The Israelis say that they are under the threats of the Arab countries to destroy Israel. That is nonsense. The Arab countries are under the threats of Israel to be destroyed.
Præsident Gamal Abdel Nasser, trods talrige anslag, den leder, der har været længst ved magten i noget mellemøstligt land. Siden midten af 50'erne har han altså ikke blot været Egyptens leder, men også førstemanden i hele den arabiske verden. Og han har gang på gang spillet en afgørende rolle på den internationale politiske scene. Han er omstridt som få. For nogle er han den store reformator, bannerføreren i kampen mod indlandsk og udenlandsk undertrykkelse. For andre er han urostifteren, manden, der forhindrer fred i Mellemøsten. Vi befinder os i øjeblikket i Cuba-paladset i Cairo. Det er præsidentens officielle arbejdsplads. Og her ved siden af mig er han, manden, der har været centrum i Mellemøsten i 18 år. Mr. President, in a recent interview, the Israeli Premier Golda Meir said that there are nobody else in the world except the Arab leaders who wants to destroy another people. The Israeli propaganda has also often claimed that. Do you want to destroy Israel and the Jews?
Well, the Israeli leaders always say that about the Arabs. But you can have a look about all my speeches for the last 18 years. Nothing was said in these speeches about something like that. All what we wanted, the rights of the peoples of Palestine, who were expelled completely out of their land, deprived of their properties. These were 1 million. Now, of course, after the occupation of the Arab territories by the Israeli army, we want the withdrawal of the occupied forces from our territory. Let's say the Israeli forces.
But you have said formally that Israel was an artificial state, and also that it didn't have a natural sovereignty. Is that correct?
Nothing was said.
On which conditions are you willing to conclude peace with Israel?
Well, we have agreed about the implementation of the United Nations resolution of November 67. And these are the conditions. From our point of view, we want the complete withdrawal of the Israeli forces from the occupied Arab territories in Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. Then, according also to the United Nations resolution, the rights of the Arabs of Palestine, that is the resettlement of the refugees or compensation, as it was said in the United Nations resolutions. Well, the other parts, arrangements for peace, we agreed about that. The right of each country to live, the integrity, the recognized and secured boundaries, the right of Israel in the navigation in Suez Canal and the Gulf of Aqaba.
Are you willing to establish diplomatic relations with Israel if Israel withdraws and a solution is found to the Palestinian problem?
Well, of course, we cannot say something about if now, because, you know, we have now bitterness. Our people are killed every day. We are subjected to attacks. Our cities were subjected to attacks. Our children were subjected to attacks by the Israeli airplanes. So I don't think it is the time now to speak about diplomatic relations.
Do you think the possibilities for a peaceful settlement are bright now?
No, I don't think so. Because the Israelis are not really aiming for peace. They aim for expansion. The leaders of Israel have stated, nearly all of them, their objectives and their views, their ambitions. They want to have Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Hebron, Gaza areas, parts from Sinai. Well, there will be either peace or expansion.
The Israelis have offered the Arabs peace, but they want direct negotiations first. I know that Your Excellency has formally said that you would not participate in direct negotiation, but will you participate in indirect negotiations?
Well, what is really the Yaring mission hearing mission was indirect negotiation, was to talk with us and talk with Israel. This was the United Nations resolution. We could not at all sit with the Israelis while they occupy our land and talk and negotiate, because the Israelis will be in the position of strength. Well, you were occupied during the Second World War, and well, anyone of your country can ask himself, is it possible, or was it possible to sit with the Nazis when they were occupying your territories and negotiate, and about what they negotiate? Now they say that they want peace and they want negotiations, but Jerusalem is not for negotiations. Beit Lahm is not for negotiation. Hebron is not for negotiation. Sharm el-Sheikh in Sinai is not for negotiation. Gaza is not for negotiation. So if we go for negotiation, we'll go to surrender.
Within which borders are you willing to recognize the state of Israel? The borders before the 67 war?
Yes, the borders where the Israelis were on the 4th of June 1967.
Would you welcome a resumption of the Yaring mission today?
Yes, but Yaring has asked us many questions. We answered all his questions clearly. But the Israelis refused to accept the resolution, refused to implement the Security Council resolution, and there was no answer from them. They said that they are ready to negotiate with the Arabs without any previous conditions.
Mr. President, would you accept a kind of Rhodes talks in order to solve the present crisis?
You know, we accepted what was stated in the Security Council resolution. A representative of the Secretary General of the United Nations. I don't know why they mention now Rhodes, and they insist about Rhodes.
So does this mean that you will not accept Rhodes talks?
Yes, we don't accept what they say, a system like Rhodes talks.
There has been a lot of rumors that Dr. Nahum Goldman was invited to Cairo. Was he invited?
No, there was nothing of that sort.
Would you be willing to meet him if he turned up here?
Well, he said lately he don't represent the government. There is no agreement between him and the majority of the government, and we haven't thought about that.
Do you think it wouldn't be useful at all to meet Mr. Goldman, or have some views representing the Israeli side?
We know what was said by him. He criticized the Israeli government because they insist about the continuation of the occupation of the Arab territories, but the government, the Prime Minister, said that they don't agree about his ideas, and he don't represent at all the government of Israel.
Have you any contacts with Israel?
No.
Not at all?
None at all.
Mr. President, why won't Egypt accept a ceasefire? Why? Why won't Egypt accept a ceasefire?
You know, we accepted the ceasefire after the aggression during June 1967. But in fact, there was no ceasefire. And you can have a look about the news from that time until now. The Israelis declared many times that they have bombarded our refineries in Suez. And if you go to this area now, Suez, Ismailia, the Suez Canal area, all the two big cities were destroyed by the Israeli air raids or bombardments. We were compelled to immigrate 500,000 people from this area in order to protect them from the Israeli hostile activities. So in fact, there was no ceasefire from the side of Israel. Last year we said we will answer and let it be a war of attrition. Everybody forgot what was going on for more than 2 years, and they said that we don't accept ceasefire.
But would you accept a ceasefire if you could get an Israeli pledge that they would leave the occupied territories, and then a package deal could be worked out on the basis of the Security Council resolution?
You know, there were two Security Council resolutions. The first one was about ceasefire. The second one was about peace arrangements, including the withdrawal of the Israeli occupying troops. So why we accept the ceasefire alone and the Israelis don't accept the withdrawal? If they accept the withdrawal and arrangements for peace, as it was stated in the November Security Council resolution, well, there will be no need for fire. So there will be ceasefire.
May I conclude from what we have talked about until now that you don't expect peace but foresees another war?
Well, we want peace, and we accepted the United Nations Security Council resolution. Really, the Israelis don't want peace. They want expansion. They refuse to accept the United Nations Security Council resolution. They refuse to answer the questions of hearing about the implementation of the resolution.
So, but this means by nearly certainty that a war will come.
Well, I think it is our right to liberate the occupied territories. It is not only our right, it is also our duty, as it was your right and your duty during the Second World War, when your country was occupied.
When do you think Egypt will be strong enough to have a full-scale war in order to liberate the occupied territories?
Well, really, it is not a question of time, really. It is a question of preparation and ability, and I don't think now one could fix a date.
What do you think was the purpose of the Israeli bombing raids deep into Egypt?
Well, as it was said by the leaders and the writers and newspapermen in Israel, well, they were willing to force a settlement. Force a settlement means that we accept their conditions. And they thought that by air raids deep in our country, the people here will be raised against their government. But what happened was the contrary. You know, here we are an old country. Our people have 7,000 years behind them of experience and history. And the result here was more consolidation internally.
Do you think they on purpose bombed civilian targets? I'm thinking of Abu Tabal and Bahr al-Bakr.
Yes, of course. And I think this was as experiments. You know, they begin to raid the civilian targets and see what will happen all over the world, what will be the reaction. If it goes on easy, well, they could continue.
Why didn't Egypt retaliate? I think you, Mr. President, have formally said that if the Israelis bombed civilian targets in Egypt, Egypt would retaliate.
Well, you know, if we retaliate, we have to be sure that we'll be able to continue in the retaliation. Because if we don't continue, this will be another defeat.
But does this mean that you'll not retaliate the next time they bomb a civilian target if it comes?
Well, I don't think that it will be easy to raid civilian targets again. But I think if there is a case like that, we have to study it case by case.
Now there have been a stop in the bombings over the Nile Delta for some time. Do you think they have fully stopped?
Well, you know, it is impossible to say something like that because whatever the air defense is strong, any aeroplane would be able to enter deep in the country. So we don't think about stopping their raids.